So are you saying then that if the National Assembly claim to be fighting for the people as they are, as they say they are now,
Yes.
with respect to amending the Constitution,
Yes.
what they're supposed to do is what? Call a conference or have the people come together?
Yes, I am an advocate of a sovereign national conference. The National Assembly don't want to hear sovereign national conference because they believe that sovereignty lies with them. But if you look at the definition of sovereignty, the sovereignty lies with the people. And except the people declare as to what happens in a society, then whatever declaration exists is not of the people, and that's not sovereignty. The declaration of the Constitution presently is a military decree, and that cannot beat the source of sovereignty, and that is the basis of what the National Assembly is laying claim to sovereignty. They have the de facto power presently, and in fact the de jure power in terms of legally being in control of governance, and also factually being in control of the governance. Yes.
So you fault them on that ground? I
fault them on that ground, but it would be very difficult, and that is why you find that romantic relationship between the executive and the National Assembly in the constitutional review process.
Concerning this SEC matter, at the moment, I'm not sure the Senate has followed suit on this. It's just the House of Representatives. And so if it's the House of Reps that comes up with that decision, can it stand?
I think there's a principle of law that what is not included expressly is excluded, and that's you may want to apply it here to say that since the National Assembly has passed the Appropriation Act, which includes, as I think, the Senate, if I'm correct, that, and they did not allocate, they made a zero allocation to SEC. By implication,
so
the Senate also approves of the opposition of the House of Reps.
Interesting.
But anyway, I think one other issue I actually wanted us to look at has to do with some other specifics as well. And let's start from the very beginning. The new year started with the people hitting the streets. We really can't forget that crisis concerning the fuel subsidy matters and what finally followed. And if you're looking at the National Assembly, specifically the House of Representatives in this case, we remembered what transpired and how some other people from that you would want to say maybe friends of the executive arm were also well mentioned in such reports. Would you say that the National Assembly, or rather the House of Representatives, has handled that matter pretty well? Because we're saying that some of these are almost spills that would take us into 2013. Farouk Lawan, and of course the particular issue surrounding that particular matter, has it been well handled concerning the executive arm as well as the House of Representatives?
Well, I think there are a lot of questions that you can raise in terms of whether the issues have been properly handled or not. In terms of those disagreements between the House of Reps and the executive. Farouk Lawan's matter is still hanging up there. Nobody knows what is happening. We've not had anything with the prosecution. Otedola is free, walking around with government officials. Farouk Lawal himself is still in the house. No prosecution, nothing. Haman Hembe has been prosecuted, yes, but on the other side, Ote is still hanging. And in terms of the fuel subsidy protests, the National Assembly actually told, the House of Reps actually told the lead of the civil society groups that were supported by the National Labour Congress and the TUC, and the House of Reps told that line and effectively asked, they were very clear in asking the government to reverse the decision. And that's, I think, is an evidence that they are on the people's side to an extent. You know, so I think that these issues will still play themselves out in 2013, and except that situation that gave rise to the indiscretion of Labarun Maku in making that pronouncement that the National Assembly is just a mere advisory body, that indiscretion would have to be taken care of for 20,000.
He didn't say that. He said the resolutions.
Yes.
Not that the National Assembly was a mere advisory body.
Their resolutions were it's the same. It's the same tomatoes and tomatoes, because yes, the relationship between the National Assembly.
Yes. You've been listening to songs lately.
so there's need to actually look at that psychology of.
No, but what is it? Is it not a resolution? It's a resolution, not a resolution.
For goodness' sake, these are arms of government, people who are representing people.
Yeah, but that's what it is.
It's a resolution, but that resolution is just not mere resolution. It's a resolution that you ought to take very seriously, because that same resolution, they can go back and pass it into law, and it becomes an act.
Yeah,
and if they bring it to you an executive,
it's a resolution.
Yes.
It's a resolution.
I agree with you that
government is not bound to implement your resolutions.
Nobody is saying that they are bound.
Yeah, but the way they came across,
there shouldn't be a too extreme in terms of they are bound or that they are not bound. We are saying that there should be a middle line. That yes, the National Assembly has passed this resolution. It is important that we as the executive
let's take a case of when it suits us. For instance, when it suits us. Now I'm speaking like the executive arm. When it suits us, yes, this resolution is good. When it doesn't suit us, we say no.
I think you're right on point.
Let's mix it up with the doctrine of necessity. Was that a resolution?
That was a resolution, and it suited the government.
No, but they said it was based on law.
What law?
That the Constitution
of necessity.
Yeah, and that's what the Senate said.
There was a vacuum in the Constitution, and the National Assembly stepped in because there was a necessity in the polity then. And with that principle of necessity, which is a principle of law, because let me give you an example of what principle of necessity is, just for the ordinary person who is watching on TV. When a man is living in the same house with a woman, they are not married, but people around know them as boyfriend and girlfriend, and they've been living together for a long time. The woman becomes an agent of necessity to the man, so that the woman can go outside, take necessaries in terms of food, clothing, and everything, and the man will be obliged to pay. So that is where necessity comes in. It's an example of necessity, where there's a vacuum, where you cannot actually lay hands on a principle of law that can help you do something. You go back to the doctrine of necessity for the interest of the polity, and that is what the National Assembly
That wasn't
did.
how I quite remember that particular debate. We found that they were actually citing parts of the Constitution and actually trying to fix things to suit those certain parts of the Constitution that were cited. For instance, that the president had to transfer a note. They cited the interview granted by the president to the BBC and how it was written on the screen, and they say that we can take that as
interpretation.
Exactly. So it's a matter of interpretation. They found a place in law
you know
to
why,
put it.
You know why there's no place in the Constitution for that doctrine? So that you have a clearer view of it. That's the fact of having to locate the writing, the letter writing, that is the information from the president, transmitting the information from him to the National Assembly, looking for it in a screen. It has become constitutional. It's no longer doctrine of necessity. It is when you don't find something like that in real terms in the Constitution. That's why you go to doctrine of necessity. There's nothing like doctrine of necessity in the Constitution. The Constitution does not provide that where something does not exist, the National Assembly is entitled to ask somebody to step in. And that is why they went ahead to amend that particular section of the Constitution, that where somebody, the president or the governor, fails to transmit such a letter, that the next person can step in. So I am saying here that the doctrine of necessity does not operate as of constitutional imperative. It is not constitutional. They are two different things. When they brought in the doctrine of necessity, they didn't come from the constitutional perspective. If you want to say that it was because there's a screenwriting that the president transmitted, then it is no longer doctrine of necessity. It becomes a constitutional provision of section 145.
They're saying that they actually looked for the doctrine of necessity and found a place in law to cite it. They found a place in law to support it.
I think the issue that led to this doctrine of necessity has to do with the resolution. And though we saw Mr. Labaran Marco still come forward to say sorry if it suits you at least. Sorry wouldn't hurt, and he did all of that. It brings to mind who the real representatives of the people are, because at that point in time, the argument of who are the representatives of the people emanated from that particular imbroglio between the minister and the House. Now, who are the true representatives of the people, so to speak? Some say if you elect the president, in this case, and he appoints someone, in turn that president is also a representative of the people or from the people. But the National Assembly thinks otherwise concerning who the true representatives are. Yes,
there's a principle of privity here. Yes, when the president appoints a minister or a person into a public position, office, that person becomes, by extension, a representative of the people through the president. But that has lost the direct privity between the people and the person. And that privity exists between the people and the National Assembly. 360 of them, I think, in the House of Reps, and about 105, if I'm correct, in the Senate, are all representatives of the people. Direct representatives of the people. Only the president and his vice are direct representatives of the people. So when you have a scale and you want to weigh it, the scale weighs in favor of the National Assembly as the real representatives of the people.
In terms of number?
Yes, in terms of in number, yes. Those other people, the ministers and all the political appointees, are third persons in the doctrine of representatives of the people.
From the point of law.
From the point of law.